Hello everybody, thank you for joining me today for another Twilight Zone video in my Twilight Zone ranking series where I rank every episode of the original Twilight Zone from my least favorite to my favorite. Today I'm going to be talking about number 23, Little Girl Lost, written by Richard Matheson and directed by Paul Stewart. This is a season 3 episode, and as always there will be spoilers. So Little Girl Lost is a Twilight Zone episode that I've always liked a lot. The concept was ahead of its time in a lot of ways, and I feel like this episode's concepts have been influential on many other stories in TV and movies and just in general. I definitely also think this is one of the more unique episodes of the show and is scary in its own way as well. The acting by Sarah Marshall Robert Sampson and Charles Aidman is solid, but I do feel like this is an episode that stands out more for its ideas and themes. So this episode starts out at night, and we have a couple, Chris and Ruth Miller, and they are in bed, and they wake up when they hear their young daughter Tina, and it seems like she needs some kind of help. So Chris decides to check this out. The dog is also barking a lot at this point, telling us something's going on. When Chris gets to Tina's bedroom, he can't find her anywhere, but he can still hear her voice. And I have to say, this is a very disturbing situation. So at this point, his wife comes in and she can't figure it out either. So Chris decides to call his friend, who is a physicist, for help, knowing that something is definitely wrong. At this point, the dog runs under the bed but also vanishes, yet the couple can still hear him barking, which gives us a hint as to what might have happened to Tina the child. So now the physicist, whose name is Bill, arrives and he's checking things out. Eventually, he decides to examine the wall behind the area which the bed is located, and then in a strange scene, Bill's hand passes right through the wall and into another dimension. So Bill explains how this could happen, and it's very interesting. He also warns the couple about entering the other dimension because they don't know their way around or what to expect, and they could also become lost. So they have an idea. The father, Chris, will have Tina basically follow the dog to get out, but she still can't find them, and I have to say the episode is pretty intense at this point. So Chris eventually falls into the other dimension, and it looks absolutely amazing. I love the camera work and effects that were used in this scene. It's very unique, even for the Twilight Zone. So at this point, Chris can see the dog and his daughter, and he tells them to come to him. When the daughter and the dog get close, Bill pulls them all back from the other dimension, apparently just in time, in another very suspenseful scene. So Bill explains that Chris was not fully in the other dimension, it just seemed that way, but had Chris waited any longer, the portal would have closed, which is a scary thought, as Chris could have been stuck partly in two different dimensions. Very disturbing. Scary stuff. Still, we do get a happy ending in this Twilight Zone episode, which is pretty complex overall, especially considering the time, the 60s, when this was made. So I think this is a great script by Richard Matheson, and solid direction and effects as well make Little Girl Lost a memorable episode in my opinion. I just think it's very thought-provoking and well done, and also a very influential Twilight Zone episode, a classic at least in my opinion. So Little Girl Lost comes in at number 23 on the list. As always, feel free to leave me a comment on if you liked this episode, Little Girl Lost, or not. Thanks for your continued support, and thank you very much for watching.